Okay, for those of you watching at home, hi. We just started. We're talking about, this is prep for homework 7B, the worksheet, I think. But this is 7B dash, whatever it was. 7B dash 1. Wow. Let's take a look. Multiple, common angles, I'm going to make reference to common angles a lot. Basically, a common angle is anything that comes from any of the common trig shapes. So there are any multiples of 30 degrees? Any multiples of 45 degrees? Or any multiples of 90 degrees? Now 90 is kind of covered by 30, 45, but I'm keeping it as a separate category for a reason. Now before we get too far, after your circle, try and leave some space for a chart. I'm going to say sine and cosine is going to be one column. Tangent is going to be another column. And then I'm going to do these three categories. Multiples of 30 degrees. Multiples of 45 degrees. And then multiples of 90 degrees. Again, there was something we did in this last year. Hopefully this will refresh your memory. If you don't remember it at all, hopefully it'll get into this one. So, okay. The multiples of 30, you start at 0 degrees. And you go counterclockwise in order to go positive. Can somebody count me off, like, I do not want to count the multiples of 45 or 90. Can somebody count off just what I would call the pure multiples of 30? So skipping all the 90s and the multiples of 90. So, let's see, Sean. What's the very first one? 30. Give me the next one. 60. So skip the 90, keep going. 120. Yep, keep going. Nice. Skip 180 because it's not a multiple. Well, it's a multiple of 90. Keep going. 210. Nice. Keep going. 240. We can skip 270 because that's a multiple of 90. And then two more. 300 and 330. When you finally get here, I don't know if anyone remembers the symbol from last year. I remember what the triple inequality sign is? Or triple equal. It's kind of like a triple equals. Do you remember what that means? Triple equals means coterminal. Which basically means it's in the same spot on the inner circle. So 0 degrees is coterminal with 360 degrees. Does that make sense? They're in the same spot. So can somebody name an angle that's coterminal with 30? Yeah. 390. If you go all the way around the circle once, you got a coterminal. You can even go backwards. Negative 330. That would also be coterminal. Does that make sense? So, well, if you see the triple inequality, that means coterminal. That means they're in the same position on the unit circle. Can somebody count off the multiples of 45, please? Jack Law. 45. And caution. A lot of people, when they draw all of these dashes, they do this. This is, by the way, not a good thing to do. They would do this. They would space these evenly. They would go 30, 45, 60. That's actually not a good thing to do. This space and this space are not the same. Notice? This is actually twice as big as this. The 45 is exactly halfway in between the 30 and the 60. So just keep that as a visual. Then keep going. We got 90.
135.
135. Okay, got 180.
180. 225.
Yep. And
270. 315.
315.
And 360.
And then 360. Okay. Those are all the common angles once around the circle. restricting to positives. That makes sense so far? So basically, any of these is called a common angle. The reason we call them common angles is they come from what we call the common trig shapes. Can anybody name some? What's one? What's one common trig shape we play with? It's a triangle. Go.
30, 60, 90 degrees.
30, 60, 90 degree triangle. Michael, what's another one?
45, 45, 90.
Right. 45, 45, 90 degree triangle. And there's a third one. There's actually four, but what's the third main one? Unit circle. And there is, did everybody remember the fourth? The trig rectangle. Good. The trig rectangle is based on the unit circle. Why do I mention these three? Because multiples of 30 degrees come from 30, 60, 90. Multiples of 45 come from the 45, 45, 90. And the multiples of 90.
Pardon the interruption. Can I have Sophie Gumpco down to the office, please? Thank you.
Sure. Rude.
I don't know, actually, today.
Okay. If you're not coming back, check the video. And we'll, if you are coming back, then woo. Yeah, all right. And multiples of 90 come from the unit circle. I'll cover more on this in a minute. But the 30, 60, 90 degree triangle, can somebody refresh my memory on the sides of a 30, 60, 90 triangle? Michael. What are the sides of a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle? What's the small side?
Well, the long side's radical 2.
That's for 45, 45 minutes.
Radical 3.
Radical 3 is the medium side.
Alright, well, that's the medium.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
What's the small side?
2?
That's the big side.
Oh, yeah.
And
Just 1.
1. 1, 2, radical 3. Yeah, 1, 2, radical 3. They're not quite in order. 1 is the smallest, 2 is the biggest, radical 3 is the medium side, because it's 1.7 something. Okay. Noah, what's the 45, 45, 90 sides?
So it's on the short length.
1 and 1.
And then 2, then roundness.
Correct. And now for a unit circle, let's get rid of these things. There are 4 things we need to know. Name one.
No sign and nothing's up, down.
Okay, sign is up, down, correct. Where's the center of a unit circle?
And 0 and 0.
0, 0. How big is the radius?
1.
1, because it's a unit circle, uni. And then is the theta above or below?
Underscore.
Theta is below. And then where is this mystery point?
Cosine of theta and sine.
Correct. Cosine of theta, sine of theta. So on the unit circle, we know that sine of theta, and you said this earlier, sine of theta is what?
Down.
Up, down. What's cosine?
Left.
Cosine is left, right. And what's tangent? Anyway. This tangent on the unit circle, go. Slope. So memorize those. The reason I brought those back up is because the number of fractions you can get for sine and cosine multiples of 30 is extremely limited. As a matter of fact, there are only 2 possible fractions, positive or negative. Let's check them out. Can somebody give me the sine, do this, Sean. What's the sine of 30 degrees?
Yeah,
1 over what?
1 over
1 over 2. That's one of the 2 fractions. Or, Michael, what's the cosine, the sine of 60 degrees?
Sine of 60 degrees
Sine of 60 degrees, yes.
is radical 3 over 2.
Correct, radical 3 over 2. On your chart, please put the following. Plus or minus 1/2, or plus or minus radical 3 over 2. Those are the only possible answers for any of the multiples of 30 all the way around the circle. The sine or the cosine. There are no other options, ever. If you know it's a multiple of 30, like 300, you'll never get anything other than 1/2 or negative 1/2, radical 3 over 2 or negative radical 3 over 2. Those are the only options, period. Does that make sense? Beyond that, somebody give me the tangent of 30 degrees. No.
The tangent that's, opposite over adjacent, and so that's radical 3 over 3.
Right, it's 1 over radical 3, which is radical 3 over 3. Or, we can do plus minus here. What is the tangent, Jack Lowe, of 60?
That is, let's see. 60 is radical 3. Oh, tangent.
Tangent.
Radical 3 over 1.
Correct.
Just
Which
radical
reduces
3.
to?
Just radical 3.
Yeah.
And this is a triangle.
So the only two options for tangent for any multiples of 30 are radical 3 over 3 or radical 3. Basically, if you memorize these, all you have to know is which one is bigger and which one is smaller. That will pretty much cure a lot of what we're going to be doing today and tomorrow. Question. Which is bigger? 1/2 or radical 3 over 2? It's your decision. Which is bigger? It looks like this might be big. How would you tell? Like if you got stuck, how would you know for sure? Exactly. You can plug in a calculator. This will be 0.5, by the way. And this will be like 0.866. Another way to look at this, which one's bigger? 1 or radical 3? Good. Radical 3. So if you cut them both in half, this is still going to be bigger. Does that make sense? So if this is smaller to begin with, then cutting them both in half is still going to be smaller. So one way or the other, this is bigger, this is smaller. Memorize that. Everybody in here, memorize that. It'll speed up your homework dramatically if you know that which one's bigger, which one's smaller. Tangent, which one's bigger, which one's smaller? Jack Love. Which one's bigger, which one's, assume it's positive.
Wouldn't radical 3 be bigger because the other one here is radical 3 but divided by 3?
Exactly. This is radical 3, and this is only 1/3 of that. So this has got to be smaller. Anyway, small, big, big. Big, isn't it? The reason I point these out, go over to 30. If I ask for the sine of 30, I'm just going to talk about sine today. We're not doing cosine, tangent, whatever yet, just sine. What is sine on the unit circle, Michael?
Up, down.
Up, down. So sine of 30, Polly, would that be positive or negative? The sine at 30 degrees.
No, it's positive.
Positive, why do you say that? Sine is how far up, down it is, and what? If you're sitting right here, did it go up or go down? It went up from 0. That's basically why. So if you want this distance is the sine of 30 degrees, whatever it is. Which, by the way, is 1/2. Do you see that the, whoops, I didn't want that far. So, let me move this down because I drew it badly. The height, or the sine, of 30 degrees is the exact same as the sine of what? No, 150. You notice they both have the same height? That means they both have the same sine. Refresh my memory, what's the sine of 30 degrees? Back on.
Sine is 1/2.
1/2. What's the sine of 150?
1/2.
Yes. If they both have the same height, they have the same sine. If you can find one, you just found the other for free. Buy one, get one free, so to speak. Okay. That's my election. Question somewhere? Can somebody refresh my memory as to the sine of 60 degrees? Julie, see Sean. Radical 3 over 2. That's the 0.866 something or other. This is up 1/2 space. This is up radical 3 over 2 spaces. So 0.5 or 0.8 something. So if I asked you for the sine of 60 degrees, it'd be radical 3 over 2. Julia, same thing. What's the sine of 120? That's going left. Sine is height. What was the sine of 60 again? Radical 3 over 2. What's the sine of 120? Yes, it's identical. If they're the same height, they have the same sine. Does everybody see visually how that works? This whole hour is training you in how to do this quickly. There is a long, drawn-out way to do this. You can do it the long, drawn-out way. I will tell you right now, I'll tell you right now, if you do it the long and drawn-out way, you will run out of time on the test. The test will assume that you can do it a little faster than that. There is a dramatically fast way to do this if you can memorize the fractions I'm going to put up there. Does everybody see that the height of 30 is less than the height of 60? Visually? Now, the height is sine. I'm telling you right now, there are only two options. 1/2 or radical 3 over 2. Small or big. I can tell you right now, the sine here is 1/2. The sine here is radical 3 over 2. Period. Look down here. I gotta draw these a little bit better here. Look at the height here. Those are multiples of 30. And here's the other multiples of 30. It's further down. Question, bless you. At a time. So what, Michael, which are the signs down here, are they positive or negative?
Negative.
They're negative. Which one is more negative? The 210 or the 240?
210.
Which one is more negative?
330.
That was one of the two differences. 210 or 240?
240.
240. Explain.
Wait.
I'm asking.
Oh, they're both on the negative side. I thought
They're both
it
negative.
was on the other side.
210 and 240. Now, don't look left, right.
Yeah, because it went lower.
I'm looking for heights. Yeah, what? You said it?
Lower.
It's lower. 240 is lower, so it's more negative. Make sense? If you went all the way down to the bottom of the circle, how far down is that? Check one. Like a 270. How far down is that?
All the way down.
All the way down? How far is that? What number? In
One.
a unit circle. Yeah, the right idea.
-1.
-1. There's a height of -1 way down there. These are not quite as far negative as -1, but they're getting there. This is a little bit negative, a lot negative. Do you see where I'm going? Up here, it's a little bit positive, and up here is a lot positive. A little bit positive is 1/2. A lot positive is radical 3 over 2. A little negative is -1/2. A lot negative is negative radical 3 over 2. Those are the only options. If you memorize those, you've got this mastered. Let me try it again. I'm going to point my finger at some multiples of 30, and I'm going to go down person to person to person, and I want you to name me the sign at that point. Okay? I'll tell you right now, there are only 4 options. Positive 1/2, positive radical 3 over 2, negative 1/2, negative radical 3 over 2. Now remember, sine is height. I do not care how far over it is right now. That's cosine. I'm just looking at sine, the height. Michael, you're on. What is the sine here? First of all, is it positive or negative?
Positive.
A lot or a little?
A lot.
Which one? Got it. Radical 3/2. Jack, sine.
Negative 1/2. Or I mean, negative 3/2. Radical.
Try again. There you go. Negative radical 3/2. In other words, is it positive or negative? Just to talk it through.
It's negative.
Negative. A lot or a little?
A lot.
A lot. Negative radical 3/2. No. Sine.
Positive,
Positive. A lot or a little?
a little, and that.
Positive 1/2. Julia C. Shun. Sine. Positive. A lot or a little? So what is it? Positive radical 3/2 is your answer. So if somebody asks you for the sine of 120 degrees, for example, you just found the answer. It's radical 3/2. Positive. So, these things that we normally would have taken about 4 or 5 minutes, go over to the reference angle, use SOHCAHTOA, find the answer, see if it's the same height, compare it over. You can just look at it and go bang, done. Sophie, sine, 1/2, positive or negative? Good, explain that. Why is it positive? So which one is important for sine? On top, right. The right only pays attention to cosine. Yeah, why is it 1/2 and not radical 3/2? Both of them are multiple of 30. It's the lower one, right. The lower one is 1/2, the higher one is radical 3/2. I'll give you another one just for free. 210, what's the sign? Yes. Negative 1/2 is a little negative. Negative radical 3/2 is a lot negative. Holly, sign. Excellent. Get the idea? I'm going to go through rapid fire now. I'm going to pick a 30, multiple of 30 at random. Actually, I'm just going to go all the way around. So the first time through, you'll be able to predict where I'm going. The first person in line is going to have to get it. So, ready? Michael? I'm going to ask you for the sign. I'm just going to point. Don't tell me just, tell me the final answer. Sign.
Right now?
Yes. 1/2. Jack. Sign.
3/2. Oh, radical.
Radical 3/2. No, sign. Radical 3/2. Julia. 1/2. Sophie. Sign. Negative 1/2. Polly. Sign. Good. Michael. Sign. Say again?
Negative radical 3/2.
Yeah. Jack. Sign.
Negative 1/2.
Negative 1/2. Get the idea? That's sign. If you can memorize those two numbers, radical 3/2 and 1/2, the bigger and the smaller, and you can tell visually, smaller negative, bigger negative, smaller positive, bigger positive, you've got this nailed, and you can answer these in like 2 seconds. Okay, so if you have an cosine. Cosine is how far over it is. It is the exact same pair of numbers. They line up. 30 lines up with 330. 60 lines up with 300. 120 lines up with 240. 150 lines up with 210. I'm going to go around the room and you tell me what the cosine is. Switch gears. Don't pay attention to the height now. Pay attention to how far over it is. I'll give you one quick demo. Everybody looking where I'm going? Start at 0. This is a little positive, a lot positive. 1/2 radical 3/2 for cosine. For negative, negative a little, negative a lot. Negative 1/2, negative radical 3/2. Got it? I'm going to go backwards this time. Follow your eye. What is the cosine here? Nice. Sophie, cosine. Wasn't one of the options. What's the cosine here? Is it positive or negative? positive or negative?
Positive.
Why?
So,
It's on the right hand side. Is it to the right a lot or a little compared to 30? A little. So what is it? That's the big one. You're the only options. 1/2. Over 1/2 or over radical 3/2. Okay, let me give you another one. Cosine. Yes, radical 3/2. Julia, cosine. Negative radical 3/2. Good. No, cosine.
Negative 1/2.
Negative 1/2. Okay, Jack, cosine.
3/2. Pardon? Oh my gosh. It's 1/2.
Is 1/2. Michael, cosine.
Yeah, radical 3/2.
Correct. Got this? Where is it? Tangent, I need a prop here. Tangent is slope. Use my handy dandy, yardstick here. If you go right through 0, 0, you notice some of these line up with each other? Slope is tangent, tangent is slope. 0 and a 180 have a very boring slope, it's a slope of 0, for example. When you start tilting, this, everybody see visually this is a positive slope, going uphill? This is a negative slope, going downhill. There are two options for multiples of 30. Small slope, big slope. Radical 3/3 or radical 3. Watch carefully. I'm going to start with 30 degrees. If you regard, now 30 versus 60, which one has a bigger slope, Michael? 60. Are they both positive slopes?
Yep.
So is this positive small or positive big at 30?
Positive small.
Positive small. How about 60?
Positive big.
So what's the slope at 30?
Positive radical 3/2.
Positive radical 3/3. Jack, what is the slope at 60?
Radical 3.
Radical 3. No, what's the slope at 120?
Negative radical 3.
Explain that. You're right.
So it's going downwards, so it's downward slope.
Yes, and is it down a lot or down a little?
It's down a lot.
Down a lot. The two slopes are 150 and 120. You notice 150 is a pretty weak slope. 120 is a pretty strong slope. Small negative, big negative, so to speak. Julie Sishan, what is the slope here? 150. Negative or positive? Negative. A lot or a little? A little. Which one is it? Yeah, so what's the final answer? Negative radical 3/3. Sophie, you're on. 210 degrees, what's the slope? There are two choices, 210 and 240. Is this 210 positive a lot or positive a little? A little. Which one is it? Radical 3/3. So is it positive or negative? Positive. You just found the tangent of 210. Polly, 240. What's the tangent? Positive or negative, first of all?
Negative.
It looks like it's going down, but you read from left to right. It's positive, it's going uphill. A lot or a little? A lot. What would it be?
So,
Positive radical 3. Catching on? Let me drill you on this one now. You ready for me to ask tangent? Tangent is going to be one of two things. Radical 3/3 or radical 3. And make it positive or negative depending on what you need. I'm just going to point to a multiple of 30. You tell me the tangent. Give me the final answer. You can talk it through yourself, but give me the final answer, in 10 seconds or less. So, ready? First thing, I'm calling people at random this time. Sophie, what is the tangent of 30? Radical 3/3. Noah, radical 3. Jack,
Negative radical 3.
negative radical 3. Polly, tangent. Negative radical 3 over 3, because it's negative a little, it's going downhill. 210, Michael.
Positive radical 3 over 3.
Yeah, positive radical 3 over 3. Sophie. Nice. Julie Sushon. Negative radical 3. And one more? No.
Negative radical 3 over 3.
Negative radical 3 over 3. Okay. It's a little tricky because negative radical 3 over 2 was an option, but for sine and cosine. So radical 3 over 3 or radical 3 are the only options for tangent. Let's see how well you do. I'm going to go through person by person. You're going to give me the sine, then the cosine, then the tangent. At any point I point out. I'll do them in order this time, and then I'll scramble them up. First thing. Michael, you're on. Sine.
Oh, 1 half.
1 half. Cosine.
Radical 0 over 3. What?
That's a tangent option.
What the heck? So,
Is it positive or negative cosine?
it's radical 0 over 2.
Yeah, positive a lot. Tangent.
It's radical 0
Radical 3 over 3. Jack. Sine.
Radical 3 over 2,
Yes. Cosine.
1 half,
Yes. Tangent.
radical 3.
Nice. Noah. Sine.
Radical 3 over 2.
Yes. Cosine.
Negative 1 half.
Negative a half. Tangent.
Negative radical 3.
Negative radical 3. Julie Sushon. Sine. Good. Cosine. Yes. And tangent. Nice. Negative radical 3 over 3. Sophie. Sine. Nice. Cosine. Yes. Tangent. Nice. Solid. Sine. Nice. Cosine. Sort of. Negative 1 half. It's negative a little bit. And then tangent. Yes. Positive radical 3. Good save. Questions? All right. Take out your worksheets. Couple other quick things I need to show you. Have your worksheets out, because we're going to start answering a few of these as we go. Multiples of 45. You notice there are two choices for sine and cosine for multiples of 30. It gets easier as you go down the list. There are less and less and less things to memorize. Multiples of 45, there's only one possible option for sine or for cosine. It's radical 2 over 2. Let's prove that. What is the sine of 45 degrees? Jeff Love.
1 over radical 2.
Right.
Goes to radical 2 over 2.
Right, fix the radical in the basement, it'll become radical 2 over 2. That's where this comes from. That's the only option.
It's plus 9.
45, correct. 135, 225, and 315. It's either radical 2 over 2 or negative radical 2 over 2, and that's it. That's the only thing you have to memorize for sine and cosine. Tangent is even easier. Can anybody spot the tangent? Do it here. What's the tangent of 45? Julie Sushon. It's 1. You want to talk nice. 1 over 1, which is 1. The only option for tangent is plus or minus 1. So, I'll use this as a pointer. I'm going to do the multiples of 45. Michael, what's the sine?
Radical 0 over 2.
Good. What's the cosine?
Negative radical. Just radical 0 over 2.
Good. See how you got that? They're both positive in this case. What's the tangent while you're at it?
1.
1. Nice. Check well. Sine.
That is
negative radical 2 over 2. What's the tangent?
Negative one.
Negative 1. Noah. 225. Sine.
Negative radical 2 over 2.
Negative radical 2 over 2. How about cosine?
Negative radical 2 over 2.
Nice. And the tangent?
Well,
Positive 1. So this is 315. Sine. Nice. Cosine. Radical 2 over 2. Tangent. Good. Sophie. Sine. Nice. Cosine. Nice. Tangent. Positive 1. Folly. Sine.
Negative radical 2.
Sine is height.
Oh, sorry,
So there's one option, but is it positive or negative for sine?
oh, it's positive.
Good. It's a positive.
Oh, radical 2 over 2.
Good. And then what's the cosine?
Negative radical.
Negative radical 2 over 2. What's this tangent?
Negative 1.
Nice. See how this works? John, focus, yes? Yeah. Go ahead. Cough it up. Yeah. Multiples of 90. You know when I said it's getting easier, easier, easier? The multiples of 90, I'm going to box these here. This, this, this. Visually, you should be able to tell me where those are. Multiples of 90. Sine is height. Tell you what. Sophie, what's the height at 0? 0. What's the height at 90? If it's a unit circle. That's how many degrees up it is. How many inches up is it? How big is the radius of the circle? And a unit circle. Go. Do that. 1. A unit circle is uni means 1. So the radius is 1. How far up is it then? 1. What's the height here? What's the height here? Excellent. Negative 1. What's the height here? 0. There are only 3 options. Negative 1, 0, or 1. Tangent is actually even easier. You have to remember this in first year algebra though. Michael, you're on. Tangent is slope, right? What is the slope at 0 if you come from the center? What's a horizontal line slope? 0. That's one option. Or, does anybody happen to remember the slope at 90, vertical line? Yeah.
Undefined.
It's undefined, it doesn't exist, it's infinite. Undefined. Those are your 2 options for tangent. It's possible for tangent to be undefined. It'll just blow up at 90 and intercept 7. So, if I do sine and cosine, everybody take a look up here. The sine here is 0. The cosine here is 1. The tangent is 0. Sine is how far up and down it is at 0. Cosine is how far over it is, that's 1. And tangent is what the slope is aiming for that, which is 0, it's flat. Here, sine is 1, that's the height. Cosine is 0 because it's no far overness. And tangent is undefined because it blows up straight from that. There is no slope. Did you get it? I'm going to start pointing, you're going to start naming. You will give me the sine, then the cosine, then the tangent. Holly, you'll start here. Sine. 0. Cosine? Cosine is how far over it is. 1. And then tangent? 0. Nice. So what is the sine here? What is sine in the circle again? 1. Good. Height. What's the cosine? 0. What's the tangent? Undefined. Nice. So the Sishan. Sine. 0. What's cosine? Negative 1. What's the tangent? 0. No. Sine.
Negative 1.
Cosine.
0.
Tangent. Nice. Jack, sine,
0,
cosine,
1,
tangent,
0,
Michael, sine,
1,
cosine,
0,
cosine is 0, tangent,
0, under by,
which one?
under by.
Yeah. Take a look at your paper now. Look at number 1. You know it says, what did it say? I've got the wrong sheet. Sine of 330 degrees. Look here. Don't even pay attention to the number anymore. Sine. Is that height, side to side, or slope? So, sine. Height. Is that positive or negative? A lot or a little? What is it? You just answered number 1. The answer is negative 1/2. See how this works? Can somebody give me the answer for number 2? Actually, let me get to the right page first of all. This was 7. What did they call it? 7 what? Oh, they didn't. Oh, it's the dumb. Yeah, sorry. It's the random, like, nothing assignments. I'm gonna have to peek off of this one. That's it. Number 2, cotangent, that's funny. Tomorrow I'm gonna do cotangent when I pound a thing, yeah.
well, it's radical, well, if you take the tangent of 30, and you get,
Tangent of 330.
yeah, it's radical 3 over 3,
Sorry.
negative radical 3 over 3.
Yeah. Everybody catch that, take the regular tangent first, it's negative radical 3 over 3. How do you get cotangent?
Then you have to flip it, so it's 3 over radical 3, negative 3 over radical 3, we can't do that, so. You take the radical out of the basement and you spell it up with just negative radical 3.
Yeah, let me talk you through that real fast. Cotangent of 330, find the tangent of 330 first. Okay? We find out that that is negative radical 3 over 3. Then cotangent means you just flip it upside down. So 3 over negative radical 3. Let's get the radical out of the basement. It's negative 3 radical 3 over 3. The 3's cancel, so you have negative radical 3 is the answer. So the secant, cosecant, cotangent are a little more annoying. You might have to get a radical out of the basement in the process. Hang on to your pen. I confess I started that, but hang on, you're right in time. It's not like I do that right now. And all right, my fault. Yeah. Number 3, I'm mooching up here roughly. Sine of 0. Julia Sishan, what's sine of 0? You just answered problem number 3. See how this works? If you've got these fractions memorized, these get a lot faster. Again, the secant, cosecant, cotangent are a little more annoying. Find the answer and flip it upside down. And if there's a radical in the basement, figure it. And then reduce. But that should be it. Make sense? The rest of the hour is yours. That will be due tomorrow. That'll be, yeah, it doesn't even have a title. It just says assignment. I think just to add insult to injury, I think it's a algebra 2, which was, that was a copy paste error. I am not degrading you to algebra 2. So, you are all freaked out. That was, I will slap the computer silly for you. But, questions?
Oh, you can beat up your computer now that lets them.
Oh, that's true. I can complain about, I'm trying to be good. All right. Everybody okay? All right, so you got about 5-6 minutes. Go ahead and pound away at this. You could theoretically get done with this whole thing. Especially if you get fast at this. Expect for me to do some more drill. Thank you.